What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 102 of the VK Bros, broadcasting from Casa de COVID, also known as the VK household on the beautiful sunny Gold Coast, with the boys, Jason, Alex, Von Cal. How are you, bro?
I was better until I realised this was the Casa de COVID. This is obviously the Casa de recovered from COVID.
Yeah, Casa de now negative from COVID, but has had an awfully fun time of it over the last 2 weeks. See, this face, if anyone watching on YouTube, this is the face of someone who has given unconditional love to 2 young children for the last 2 weeks straight. Honestly, I do not know how people in Melbourne survived a 200-day lockdown, especially in like single bedroom apartments, not even allowed to go outside. I was pushed to my wit's end.
I was genuinely concerned about your mental health through speaking to you, because there was not a lot of upside to life. I mean, counter to that, today I went and played golf, had a glorious victory, went and had lunch with a friend, had beer, driving the Ferrari.
It sounded pretty good, isn't it?
So life...
Like, your life sounds alright.
Life's good. Life's good. Can I start with a douchey Ferrari story?
Absolutely.
So first of all, I got it back after I got the little issue sorted out. And it was actually... It's funny, everyone still thinks that there's ridiculously expensive costs associated, but the parts that failed were literally $200 each.
Right, yeah.
So I thought we'd take it for a drive, but I went to the service station yesterday because I'm very thirsty. Loves a drink, loves a drink. And there was a young guy, obviously a new staff member, who's spent a lot of time cleaning the Bowser that I was at so that he could scope it out. And look, I'm all for it. I love having a chat about cars. And he was asking some questions and I was answering it, and I went in and paid, and the old bloke behind the counter goes, "Oh, I've never seen it work so hard before in his life. There must be a Ferrari out there." And we had a bit of a laugh. Then went out. He's asking more questions, and now I want to go.
Yeah.
And I did the douchiest thing, and I'm actually disgusted with myself because I missed an opportunity, and I was a douche.
Right.
The reason why I was a douche is because I said, "Well, start saving," knowing full well that I don't believe that.
That's right. Yeah.
I should have said, buy Bitcoin. That would have been the perfect opportunity to say,
true.
Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I was a douchebag, and I missed a great opportunity to hopefully put a young person on the right path.
Yeah.
Because I give you a tip, working at Shell, he's never going to be able to save enough to follow his dream of getting a Ferrari.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's actually, that's one of those times in life when... Yeah, fair enough. But that's one of those times in life where you think about how you could have responded to a situation way after it. It's like when, someone says something to you and you give them a comeback, and the comeback's like a 5 out of 10. And then later on you're like having a shower and you go, "Oh, I should have said this."
Well, you and I, we craft it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it after and say, like, in future, if I had my time again, I would have said this, so that you learn from next time that it comes up.
Yeah.
Because we're not perfect.
No.
My comeback...
It's striving to be.
I mean, this was my golfing approach this morning. Robbie, who I played against...
Shout out to Robbie.
He's been getting lessons. So he was very confident going in. He's also done a couple of days at the driving range to improve his skill.
Right.
And as he pulled in, I met him at his car, where I said, "I hope you kept receipts for your lessons, because after this, you're going to want a refund." Now, I think it was a pretty good one. Worked out.
And you talk the talk and you walk the walk.
That's
because
it.
you won by, 5 shots?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful day for golf too.
Cracking day.
Absolutely cracking day. So I don't know how good this is going to come through on the video, but obviously we're out the back here in my my resort style backyard with the pool, with the sun out. It's a beautiful day on the Gold Coast.
What do they call the little vacuum cleaner? Pool vac? It's not the best sight. I could have cleaned a pool before we did this.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. Now, something else I wanted to speak about just really quickly, because I know you've got some real stuff to talk about. Got my DEXA scan last week. I don't think I've spoken... Oh, first of all, thanks Chris. Shout out to Chris for filling in last time.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he had a good time.
Yeah.
He felt a little bit underprepared, but he's got like he's written some notes for next time, and I'm sure there'll be an opportunity.
I'm sure there'll be another next time
to ring in.
Yeah.
Another shout out to his friend that will refuse to debate me on whether crypto is worthwhile or not.
Right.
Chris,
is that Dan from the podcast, or is that someone else?
No, someone else.
Right.
Someone else. Now, my DEXA scan, I was disappointed with.
Mm-hmm.
I put on only 45 grams of lean mass.
Okay.
And I gained 400 grams of fat.
Okay.
Now, I have done something positive with that information. You know, I haven't let it get to me. I've used it as a constructive thing, and I've reduced the snacks. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I've replaced a lot of my afternoon snacks with fruit.
Yep.
Basically, just being an adult. That's effectively what I've done. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it for like 6 days now. Haven't seen any results, so that's a little bit head-nicking, but you know, you got to stick with it. And I also finished my gym's testing, which we do twice a year.
Right.
Now, I didn't do the last test because I was injured.
Yep.
But I have improved in every single facet except one.
Okay.
So deadlift, I went up from 150 kilos to 160, and this is 1 rep max.
Yep.
Military press, I went, which is just on a bar straight up.
Yep.
I went from 70 kilos to 75.
It's pretty good.
Bench press, I'm most proud of, went from 105 to 115.
Yeah, that's huge.
And then there was some, chin ups. I went from 2 chin ups to 4 chin ups.
Nice.
Went from, so the cardio one was like 500 meters on the rowing machine, followed by 600 meters on the assault bike, and then a 700 meter run.
Yep.
And it's timed. Mm-hmm. I took like 48 seconds off my time.
Okay.
So that was good, and I felt much better too. And a rowing Tabata, so 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. You have to get 100 meters every time.
Work set.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now I halved my time. So I lost last testing. I was minus 68. I went minus 34, which is good. Mm-hmm. But I thought the roll on was going to give me, was going to count,
right.
But it doesn't count because I finished above 800.
Right.
So I think if I did it again, I could have got a high score. Yep. I just wanted to net out, but
yep.
You know, live and learn.
Mm-hmm.
Now the 40 cal on the assault bike. This one, I don't know if I've mentioned, it has been in my head for weeks. It's the one. It's literally just on the assault bike and see how quickly you can do 40 cals.
Yep.
Last time I did it, I effectively lost sight at 10 calories.
You lost sight?
I couldn't see.
Right.
The windmills were getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And at the who knows what, you know, I lost hearing. I lost everything. When I finished, it gives you a confirmation beep to say that you're off, and I think they were screaming at me that I'd finished. I got off.
The beeps weren't the machine when you woke up in hospital.
Could be. Basically keeled over in the gym. After 10 minutes, I made my way to my office, which is right next door, where I laid on the couch and just woke up 45 minutes later. I effectively passed out.
Yeah.
So it's been in my head that this is the one to fear. That I was very scared of doing this, and I wanted to achieve a better result. So I got 62 seconds on the first time around,
right? And
I wanted to beat it.
So it's the amount of time it takes you. Is it to burn 40 calories?
No, it's just to register 40 calories on the machine.
Generate 40 calories through the machine.
Yeah, which is an arbitrary figure. Yeah. Which doesn't mean anything. It was just a measure that we use on those bikes.
Yep.
Now it's funny you say that because one of the guys that goes to the gym, real numbers guy, he had said to me, "You're not going to beat it." And I'm like, "Man, I don't like the negativity. I've beaten everything else. I don't like negativity." And he goes, "It's not you, it's the machines." Now, this guy that was telling me, he's got the record in the gym. He did 40 calories in 18 seconds.
Mate, sounds to me like someone who's trying to hold on to the record.
No. He's untouchable. Like, even the trainers there, I think the next best is a trainer at like 23 or 24. But he said...
So it's 24 seconds.
Seconds.
Right.
All the records were made on one particular assault bike.
That's no longer
which
there.
does not register the calories in decimals.
Oh.
Now, this guy is adamant. He said, I've done assault bike basically every day, and I know that these don't count as fast as what that old machine did.
Right.
So as far as he's concerned, no one will ever get the record because the machine that did it is gone.
Yeah, interesting.
Which falls in line with what my result was. Because I am fitter, because I was fitter in all the other things that I did.
Yeah.
But I went slower on that.
How much slower?
I finished at 118 instead of 62.
Yeah, no, it's
So 68. No, what was that? 118 is 78 seconds.
Yeah.
Compared to 62 seconds.
Yeah, it is unreasonable to think that you would be... You're essentially 10% ahead in every other metric.
Correct.
And then you're almost 20% behind.
Yeah.
On
So
that one.
And he did say that before. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it.
Fair enough. Oh, look, it sounds like great results, all in all. Like, we've said the whole time, what's really interesting for me about this whole fitness journey that you're on in particular, because obviously you're training and working at it week in, week out.
Training.
Yeah, formally training, but also, like, formally recording everything. You know, doing the fitness testing and stuff like that. It's a big deal. Just from, like, an anecdotal perspective, I was watching stuff on YouTube the other day, and one of our first episodes of the podcast showed up. Mm-hmm. And we're fat as fuck.
Paunch is the word I'd use, yeah.
Like, I've got that round tire around my stomach, and, like, we're both fat faces.
Yeah.
Like, so just even from a visual perspective, we've both come a long way in the last... It's been almost 2 years.
Well, I reckon you're looking great. Your work, I think, is doing wonders.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and having seen the food and drink that you've been able to consume during that time is very impressive as well.
Alex has changed his diet out to be more of an adult, and I have regressed further back to being a teenage male.
Yeah.
I was telling the boys a little while ago, I've been eating so much fast food lately because, and like, I try to be smart with my fast food choices. So my main fast food choice...
Oxymoron.
Well...
Oxymoron deluxe with cheese.
Yeah, probably. That's probably a fair thing to say, actually. I'm not going to try to...
sugarcoat it. Although you would like that.
I would love that. Five original tenders from KFC is like my go-to snack now. So it's just chicken plus all the batter and all the beautiful seasoning and everything like that. But it's a high amount of protein. Obviously it's got a lot of fat in it, that sort of thing. But I'm not going to pretend it's good for you. But as far as things that you can order off the KFC menu, it's probably not the worst thing that you can actually order. But one thing I've really enjoyed doing lately is a lot of, like, all the KFCs around my local area have got 2 lanes. I love pulling the overtake in a drive-thru.
Yeah, right.
There is nothing more satisfying because you have to sit next to the person as, like, so what I'm talking about is you might be showing up for the drive-thru and some idiot has just followed one of the other cars straight through.
Because people are obsessed with following lines.
That's right. Because too many people are like monkey see, monkey do, and they'll just jump into a line instead of taking the free lane. And there's nothing more satisfying than just ducking straight into the free lane, and then you wait, and then it's like, welcome to KFC, may I take your order, please? And you're like, yeah! And you can tell the other person hears it too, and they're so shitty.
But hopefully that's a lesson. Hopefully they learn that your conformity to a social construct that is not being dictated or mandated by anyone but yourself has just cost you.
That's right.
And
I've literally done it 3 times in probably the last maybe 3 weeks.
It's a lesson to everyone out there.
Yeah. I've had a lot of opportunities.
You've practiced. Yeah.
I've had a lot of practice, but
you've recognised how to beat the person to the apex.
Yeah, it's also a way...
Is it always the inside lane, or is it just at the opposite lane?
It's just the opposite lane.
Yeah, okay.
And
because sometimes you can round people around the outside.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it is so interesting to me that just that phenomenon of people just joining in behind on the line, just joining in. Like, you see this even when you go to, like, a food court and people are, you know, standing in a line or whatever, maybe to order something. And quite often people just go up and stand behind people, even if they've already ordered, they're just waiting.
It happens at... So, I've been at Queensland Transport a couple of times this week, and it's been bedlam. I learned something new. Dealers get priority before 11:45,
right,
but not after. And they never told me that.
Okay.
So, and I've had to go in the afternoons the last couple of days. And you're supposed to walk in, get a ticket from the machine that gives you a number, then go stand wherever you want, wait for your number to get called out.
Yeah.
But the amount of people, like, I would go stand outside, and the amount of people that would just come and stand next to you And I stopped telling people. Until they ask.
Yeah.
Oh, you in a line? No, just go in.
Yeah. It's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, you're not their parents.
And then I had this bitch. Right, tell me if this is this whacked out, right? I was out on the phone outside, so it was packed. It stunk inside. The heat was up too high,
Right.
so everyone's like, there was probably 40 people in there and just stunk.
Gnarly.
So I'm standing outside in the sun, but I can see through the window at the numbers on the board, so I'm not going to miss my spot. And I'm on the phone because I thought, got to utilize the time, so I'm doing deals, spinning wheels, you know.
Yeah.
And this lady comes out talking on speakerphone to her friend, and comes out and stands right next to me.
Yeah.
Talking on speaker. And obviously she needs to speak louder because I'm talking. And I tried to power play her by speaking louder, but she beat me. I had to capitulate. So
Really?
I bailed out. Well, I was done with the call, so there was literally no reason for me to keep talking. But I thought, that who thinks that that's okay to do that?
It's the 2022 equivalent of walking into a male toilet and having someone pissing at the urinal just go and standing next to them, even though there's free stalls like further away.
Totally.
It's just not okay.
Yeah, I found it so bizarre. And it was like, I was the only person on that side of the entire building.
Yeah, right.
There were heaps of other places to go, but she chose to go right next to me.
Maybe being punked.
The stuff was not serious. I mean, I could hear the conversations clear as day. They're literally just having a chat about stuff.
Yeah.
Whacked out.
Yeah, that's a bit of a recent phenomenon I've noticed too, is the amount of people who have speakerphone conversations in public.
Yeah, I do it now too. No, not in public. No, not in public.
Yeah,
but
I do speakerphone a lot because I might be doing other things, holding the kids. Like, we do FaceTime all the time when I've got the kids in my lap and that sort of thing. But I notice that a lot when you're just out places. The amount of people who are walking around, sort of holding the phone like we're holding these mics.
Yeah.
Having a conversation with someone that everyone can listen to. Like remember, and look, maybe it's symptomatic of society. Remember, privacy used to be important to people. Like, people actually used to care about privacy.
What's that meme? Let's not talk over the phone because the government's listening. Hey Siri, what's a recipe for pancakes?
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe, do we just not care about privacy anymore? Like, is that?
I think we care less.
Okay, I found this on the web.
What? Oh, I mean, I said it. Siri, sorry, if you guys didn't hear that, Siri just answered.
Yeah, so Siri's listening to this conversation too, which, let's be honest, the government is probably listening to the VK Bros. I'm sure we're on a list somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I've no doubt we're on a list. Do you want to talk about, is there anything to say about Origin?
Oh, yeah. Would you like my Origin breakdown? Did you watch the game?
I watched the KO Sports...
Oh, the mini?
The mini.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
It didn't... I mean, all the hype on the news said that it was the best Origin game that there's ever been, but for me, the points differential wouldn't say that. The only reason why I think people do think it was great is because it had all the elements of a good game in that...
Yeah.
You know, it had a backwards and forwards. It had some biff, but I mean,
you can't really get the same feeling from the mini.
Okay.
So the whole, in my opinion, like, for me, it was, I don't know, I can't call it the greatest game ever. I'm sure like the first Origin game was probably the greatest game in Origin history, but it was one of the most enjoyable games I've watched in a long, long time of football. And you're right, it literally had everything. So in the lead up, it had the drama because you had Queensland's main guy, Cameron Munster, get ruled out because of COVID on Friday. So the guy who killed it and got man of the match in the first game and won the game for us in Sydney, all of a sudden, just a few days out because of COVID, is ruled out.
Yeah.
And this actually sparked... It's really interesting when... Like, I listen to, like, Bloke in a Bar, love the podcast.
I don't want to go too far into it, only because I even know that the NRL fans have said they're over it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I won't go too far into it, but I just want to say, it's interesting seeing, like, mainstream sports podcasts now starting to talk about COVID, and, like, because they've been avoiding it for 12 months. Right. Like, every time it comes up...
Are they saying there needs to be an investigation?
Well, kind of. Like, they're actually at the point now where they're like, because they swear and stuff, because it's like the blokiest stuff that you can listen to. They're literally like, why the fuck are we, like, and so Dan Kemp had a good point. He goes, there's going to be 50,000 people in Suncorp Stadium. Judging by the statistics of how many people are infected at the moment, at least 1,000 of those people will have COVID. and we're ruling out someone like Cam Munster, who by all accounts
further away.
is fine.
Yeah, right.
Like
yeah.
he was sweet. He's like one of the asymptomatic people.
Yeah.
He's like, if there's anyone who COVID's not going to have a negative effect on, it's Cam Munster.
It's a young super athlete.
Yeah, super athletes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, so it's been interesting to see that shift.
Well, what I thought was funny is on Channel 7, the article was pushing mandatory mask wearing to try and bring back because of this massive blow up. And then when it went to the sports segment, Barrett's was taking selfies with all the fans, and he'd been out, like, he was at the Caxton for lunch.
Yeah.
He was taking photos of everyone.
He's
I'm
just
like,
out living his best life. Doing what a sports presenter should be doing.
living life.
Yeah.
So I thought it was funny. You can say one thing, and look, there is definitely a camp of people that are still super terrified by it, you know. And if you look at the numbers, you can see why you'd be terrified.
and the thing
but
is,
then
that's
there's
right.
there's another cohort of people that are living life and enjoying it.
Yeah, but see,
and
this
everyone
is-
looks like they had a really good time at Origin.
I think everyone, unless you're a Blue supporter, had a great time at Origin. But this is the thing. This will segue me into something I want to speak about now. You're right. If you were one of those people who was scared of COVID during any time of the pandemic, if you were fearful of COVID, you should be fearful of it now.
Totally.
Because the statistics indicate it is way worse this year than it has been any other year.
Because I haven't been watching Australian data. I only have been watching Queensland data.
Okay.
And we went from like 2 deaths a day to 20 deaths a day
Yeah.
pretty regularly.
Yeah, I haven't had a look recently, but... Sorry, I want to say recently. I haven't had a look today, but I remember looking at it a few days ago, and the 7-day average of deaths in Australia was 42 a day.
Right.
At the moment. Like, that's horrendous compared to where we've been at pretty much any other point in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that includes, like, pre-vaccines and pre-treatments.
Yeah.
Like, I will segue to this. I'm just going to do a quick Origin wrap-up. The reason why it was one of the most enjoyable games that I've ever watched was because there was so much drama involved in it. So you had the COVID stuff ruling people out before the game had even started. You had the fact that, like, New South Wales absolutely belted Queensland in the second game.
Right.
But then you also had the fact that New South Wales has not won a decider at Suncorp Stadium since 2005.
Yeah, I only found that out by a billboard that I passed on the way to work.
Which, in my opinion, was the greatest individual Origin performance I've ever seen, which is Andrew Johns. Joey Johns was... If you want to watch someone be the GOAT in rugby league, go and watch that game. Game 3, 2005. That's the best individual performance in an NRL game, in a rugby league game of all time.
Right.
Anyway, I'll move on. But when the game started, I think it was the first set of 6, Corey Oates was running the ball out, led with his head, and knocked out Cameron Murray from the New South Wales players who tried to tackle him. So he was out for the game. In the next set, Queensland's kicked the ball down to the New South Welshman. New South Wales players trying to run down at their own end. Selwyn Cobbo puts his head in the wrong position trying to make a tackle, catches Patrick Carrigan's hip. He gets knocked out. He's gone for the rest of the game. I think it was in the same set. Queensland had a prop get knocked out and gone for the whole game.
Look at what I titled the note.
Douchebag Ferrari driver, CTE of Origin. Yeah.
CTE of Origin. So when I watched that thing, I was like, these guys... like, it brings a whole new word to the term flop. You know? It was an involuntary flop.
Yeah. It was brutal. Like, it was brutal. And... that's why people watch that sport. Like, let's be real. They've done a lot of work on cleaning the game up over the years, and you don't want to have people... like, you don't watch it to watch people get injured. But it is the contact sport. I'm not even going to say it's a contact sport. As far as world contact sports, unless you're looking at actual, like, combat sports, it is the combat sport. You can say the NFL's got higher velocity contact. Yeah, that's fine. But you've also got all the padding and you've got all the stoppages.
Yeah.
Like, it's the
And
most...
2 different teams.
Yeah, it's the most gladiatorial sport that there is. And this game was what people came to see.
An interesting note, kind of similar but kind of not, is they just had the Austrian Formula 1.
Right.
And Lewis Hamilton crashed on the Saturday sprint race that they had.
Yep.
And the crowd cheered. Now, the reason why the crowd cheered is because that's where all the Dutch fans, because it's close to where Verstappen's from.
Yep.
It's not his home country, but it's like his home race.
Yeah.
So the whole sea of orange.
Yeah.
And everyone's saying, "Oh, you shouldn't cheer when another driver crashes." If I was go-karting and my friend crashed, I would cheer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would cheer. Now, we know that 9.9 times out of 10, they are safe.
Yeah.
when I don't think anyone's cheering when a car is when Grosjean went between the wall and it burst into flames, no one was cheering.
No.
But when Lewis Hamilton came off and nudged the wall, everyone cheered.
Yeah.
It wasn't racist. It was teamist.
Yeah.
We wanted to see this 8-time or 7-time, whatever, 8-time champion. We wanted to see him make a very rare mistake.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that.
Yep.
And he's just done it, so everyone cheered. And the fact that people are coming out, Ricardo had to, we shouldn't be cheering that stuff. Guys, you're getting over,
Dude, it's sports.
It's
like,
sport.
At the end of the day, the whole point of sports is to be tribal. It is the way that we have been able to exercise the tribal parts of our psyche.
Yeah.
In a
Controlled environment.
In a controlled environment in a society, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't normally do that.
Yeah.
But it's the same in every sport. Like, unfortunately, you want to see the people that you don't like go poorly.
Absolutely.
In what you want them to be okay. Like you said, no one's going to see Lewis Hamilton have a fiery crash and get caught on fire and cheer for it. Or maybe there will be a few people that will do that. And they do wear hoods.
When Robbie sliced the ball today at golf,
Yeah.
I laughed.
Yeah.
I laughed in his face.
Yeah. I mean, it's good sportsmanship to do that.
Yeah.
Because they should learn that hurts, and they should not do that again.
Correct. And that's part of my approach is why I talk a big game. I talk a massive game because then I need to perform.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I've added more gravitas to my performance. I've set myself up. And it was funny because when I walked into the gym to do my 40 cal that I've been putting off, some of the comments were made. It's like, oh, you should have done it when no one's there. And one of the trainers who obviously has learned, he's like, no, he needs this. He needs...
That was my first thought when the record holder had said that you couldn't beat it. I thought that they knew that about your psyche and were trying to actually pump you up.
Well, do you know what the problem is? They were pumping me up. So I want to be denigrated next time. So I want to be told, you're going shit, you suck. I want to see if that's better. Because we have spoken about it. I mean, a friend of ours did was it for his PhD? He did a study on to see what stimulus, whether positive or negative stimulus helps performance. And, that's, we do talk about whether, we could run that test within our gym.
Yeah,
absolutely. To see performance.
Because everyone's going to be different, though.
Yeah, true.
It's definitely a personality thing. The biggest fuel that you can give me is you can tell me I can't do something.
Yeah.
That's the biggest fuel that you can give me. You can give me all the pats in the back in the world. When it's something that's like a sporting endeavor or a business thing or whatever it is, if it's something you're trying to achieve, as long as it's something that you can measure, I don't need the pats on the back because
You want the slaps in the face.
Yeah, I'll be able to see the results. Like the results tell me whether or not I'm progressing and going in the right direction. I don't need something.
Correct. Yeah, you know when you've done good.
That's right.
Yeah.
But if you tell me that I can't do something, that just gives me fuel because I'm going to do it just to prove you wrong.
And I also, after that, I'll ask the question, what did I do wrong? And they'll tell you because it's easy for someone to critique you.
Yeah.
And I picked up some good... So that's what I did when I walked out. I'm like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, your arms did this and that. And I'm like, okay, so enough added that into a mental note to gather as much data as I can. So next time, I'm better. And
that's the most mature way to use that sort of fuel. Because unfortunately, too many people who have that chip on their shoulder fuel, they don't ask for what did I do wrong afterwards.
Yeah.
They're like, they might be a poor loser a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, maybe it comes from a background of playing sports for growing up on Tembury Mountain, small town, we didn't have a big player pool to pull from. So quite often we were up against the odds because, we're a town of 5,000 people putting together a sports team and playing against places like, Helensvale that you have 200,000 people down here who are putting together a team of the same amount of people. So just the talent pool that you're pulling from is much smaller. So maybe I feel like in life I'm a very good loser because I've done a lot of losing in my life.
Yeah.
I've, you joke about it all the time. I've never won a championship. As far as actual major sporting competition goes, never won a championship.
Have I?
You have. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have been a passenger in a very successful team before.
Still there.
Hey, results are results.
What's the Chicago Bulls player that was basically on the bench the whole time?
Oh,
Steve Kerr?
No, he wasn't on the bench all the time. He could shoot. He was just a 3-point shooter. He just wasn't the guy.
Well, I'm worse than him. But I've still got the ring.
You are like, for example, Andrew Bogut won an NBA championship with the Golden State Warriors when he got traded to the Warriors just in time for the playoffs to start and broke his leg in the first game.
But, okay, but no...
Didn't play another game for the rest of the series, but they went on to win the championship, still gets a ring.
Oh, still gets it. Yeah.
That's you.
No. Mine wasn't that bad because my tactic, I was a wing. And I used to set up most of the goals. So I think I've only scored 1 goal in my entire soccer career.
Yeah.
But I set up probably 70% of all of them. Just kicking across to Danny McJanet, who launched it in.
Yeah.
that was it. He had like the top number.
Yeah.
I had the bottom number, but he was nothing without me.
Hey, a team is a team, man.
Team is a team.
I
was there.
And that's the thing. Results are results.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that's probably a lesson for everyone in, we often talk about how, our kids these days, like they're the generation where everyone gets a trophy for just showing up. And unfortunately, you see the results of a lot of that stuff now. Like there are a lot of people who are younger, and look, there's a lot of people our age too. This is a generalization because our age group was really when they started bringing in some of that stuff.
Yep.
Or maybe just after us, like maybe 3, 4, 5 years after us was when they started bringing in a lot of that stuff. Nice. But you do see a lot of that mentality. I've got a lot of friends who run businesses now. They might run cafes or something like that. And something I've seen a lot of lately is a lot of posts about like millennial entitlement and about how young people don't want to work hard anymore, or when they come into a business, they just want to run the place straight away. And we were joking about this the other day where we're talking about how now that we're in our mid-30s, we actually understand what experience means. And we remember being teenage kids and having someone in their mid-30s go, guys, like, you just need to get some experience under your belt and whatever. We're like, oh, fuck, whatever, we know everything.
Dude, when I did I can't remember if it was my 6-month or my 12-month review as a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
This is how cocky I was.
Yeah.
So I'd started working at a dealership at the lowest rung. I was earning $20,000 a year. I was probably working 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
The lowest level job that you could possibly get.
Yeah.
I come to my review, I'm meeting the general sales manager and the dealer principal. I walk into the meeting and I sit in the boss's seat. Right? And then he plays the game, he sits on the other side, and he's like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'm like, right here.
Right here, motherfucker.
That would have put me at 22 years old, right? Yeah. And obviously not deserving of the role. Where I have never, ever fallen for that sentiment towards the youth has been around since humans have been around.
Yeah.
So I remember that moment in my life. I know how cocky I was. So if I see someone cocky, that's not new. This is not a thing about that generation. If it is, it's an energy about that generation. And we need to harness it. They are not entitled. Well, sorry, all people are entitled. We were entitled back then.
I don't know if I would use the term cocky, though.
There is no difference between this generation and that generation and our parents' generation.
Yeah,
at our core, we all did the same shit.
I think it is different.
Explain. Give me an example.
Well, the term cocky is not how I would describe the kids.
Headstrong and cocksure.
No, I don't think they are headstrong. I don't think they are cocksure. But
you talked about entitlement.
Yeah, but entitlement doesn't necessarily mean you're cocky and aggressive and confident. So a cocky person has that mentality like we were just discussing before, where if they then came over and slapped you for it, you'd probably go, I'll fucking show you, and you'd show up the next day and you'd work even harder. Just to give you a bit of an example with some of the generational differences with some of the guys that I work with. So my boss and I are very, very similar in that we're both very just straight shooters. If you're doing something wrong, we'll let you know because it's the job, right? It's not a dig at you personally. We're not trying to hurt your feelings. It's like, hey, you fucked that thing up. Can you not do that next time? And this is how you're going to fix it. But straightforward. And that's how we operate. And that's why we're very efficient at doing what we do. We've had some guys that have come to work with us over the last 6 months who are in that 21 to 26, 27-year-old age bracket who have all the same potential as we did at the same age. Like, they're physically strong, they're very fit, they're very intelligent, but I would say they're more sensitive these days than what we were at the same age. So I don't think it's a cocky, like, I don't think I would call that generation cocky. I would call them...
I completely disagree with what you're saying.
Okay.
Because I think if you went back, you would find that you were just as sensitive, and what I think it's more a reflection of is management now, older people now, not recognizing that there is a difference in the generation forthcoming.
So there is a difference.
But it's all the same difference every single time. So it's what, as you progress and you become older, you assume that younger cohort should conform to do it the way that you did it. Therefore, you try and achieve things the way that you achieved it. Whereas what the way I think it should be now is we should have learnt that it didn't work when we were coming through as efficiently as it could have, and we need to treat them differently to make sure that they reach their potential.
I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong. I'm saying that they are different.
I'm saying they're different too, but it's always been the same. I'm saying Socrates wrote the same thing 4,000 years ago. That we have this same mentality of the upcoming. We think like it's copy paste. So the only way to break the cycle is us, the ones with the brains. We change the way that we manage them.
But you would agree, wouldn't you, that society itself in general is softer now than it was, say, 50 years ago, right?
No.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean...
you can have that opinion. I would disagree with you.
There were probably less opportunities back then for individuals to go and have a go of it 50 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not talking about opportunities or achievements. I'm talking about the mentality of society. I think we are a softer society today, and for better and worse. Like, you know,
it's a perception. Cite an example. Like, give me an example.
We have a society where a certain percentage of people get upset if you don't refer to them by their chosen pronouns. And I don't think you would have had that 50 years ago.
You don't think that back then there may have been a certain cohort that maybe not that exact issue, but a different issue, didn't think that they should have to wear a 3-piece suit to work. Do you know what I mean? It's horses for courses. It's just a different gripe at a different time.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's the same thing over and over again.
Okay. Interesting. Let's segue back to... I want to talk about some of the COVID numbers. Because like what you were saying before about how some people are and have been terrified of COVID for the entire pandemic. Like, I actually ran through the numbers because I've been having... What's been very interesting for me of late, and it's only really been in the last couple of months. Like, I'll be honest with you, I have really stopped paying any attention at all to mainstream news.
Yep.
I don't turn it on. It actually, like, in the last 2 weeks, I watched a little bit of it, and it actually really, like, upset me, a lot of the things that were being said. And obviously it's because I was in a bad headspace for the last 2 weeks as well.
Yep.
Being sick, knowing that it was Fauci's bioweapon that I was dealing with, and knowing that, like... literally sitting there going, someone did this, and it's affecting me. It's affecting my family. And it's like, I think I explained to you the other day, or might have been talking to Amanda about it, but it would literally have been like, so you run a business selling used cars, you getting a cricket bat, going down the road, smashing people's cars up right in front of them, and be like, oh, your car is broken. The great news is, though, I sell cars.
Yeah, I have the solution, yeah.
Yeah, here's the solution for the problem that I've created for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so... what has been interesting for me in these small snippets of some of the mainstream stuff that I have seen is there is a lot of the rhetoric has changed and has evolved over time. A lot of the bullshit has changed. Now, the bullshit itself has changed because now it's become undeniable. Example being, vaccines don't stop you transmitting the disease; they only give you personal protection. Apparently,
Yeah, they'll still say it.
now
Some of them will.
They will still say it, but there has been some interesting developments in regards to that, especially in regards to workplace mandates recently. Example being the AFL. The AFL were very strict. They had a vaccine mandate last year. If you didn't get vaxxed, you're out.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the NRL had kind of one, it was like a team-by-team thing. And there's certain teams that I think use it as an excuse to scud some people that they would have wanted to fire anyway, because maybe they were on some expensive contracts. But I know that there were certain teams that players aren't vaxxed and just no one spoke about it.
Sure.
And I know the NBA did the exact same thing. Like, these are Ferraris, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to put bad oil in a Ferrari
Yeah.
that you've spent millions of dollars on.
Yeah, I'm not using a new fuel that's never been
That's right.
tested before.
Yes.
In the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have found that a lot of that rhetoric changing around, like, because the AFL's basically come out and said, whilst we strongly suggest you get vaccinated, they no longer have the mandate. And what really was, it shouldn't really trigger me because it's the way that we want things to go, but with everything just sort of all of a sudden going the other way. So in Victoria, for example, you've got all this talk recently about how the new health minister, because Martin Foley resigned, who I can't remember what her name is, but apparently she's received all this health advice about we should be bringing back mask mandates for winter. And they have gone against the health advice. And there's been all these headlines about how, for the first time, is what the headlines say, you know, these governments have gone against the health advice. And now they're starting to go, oh, it's a political decision. Well, as we detailed on the podcast a few weeks ago, we know full well that the Victorian government, at least, didn't receive any health advice since like October last year.
Yeah.
So it's been political the entire time. We've said it's been political the entire time. And now we're at a point where it's becoming clear as day for people that it has been political the entire time.
Yeah.
And it is interesting because the statistics for this year are fucking terrible. Like, if you were ever going to justify any of the things that they have done, lockdowns, mandates, all of it, the data from this year should have been...
We should be doing it now.
We should be doing it now.
Yeah.
And just to sort of paint a picture for you, I did a quick look up of the stats just before you got here. So going back, at the start of the pandemic, 2020, so the whole of 2020 in Australia, we had 28,408 cases and 909 deaths. Now, one of the things that contributed to a lot of those deaths too back in 2020 was the speed in which they put people on ventilators. So this is something that, this is something that you'll notice just we don't do anymore.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately what happened was, I think it was about
We
July.
probably don't need to go into it.
Okay.
We just know the ventilator's bad.
Long story short, the drug that they started prescribing people was remdesivir. Remdesivir was giving people kidney failure. So when you're hooked up to a ventilator, and one of the things that your kidneys do is they help you excrete water. So if your kidneys are failing, your body retains too much water. So you're having people who were put in a coma, put on a ventilator, hooked up to an IV drip with kidneys that don't work, so they weren't expelling any water, and the ventilator was literally pushing that water into their lungs and drowning people. That's why we don't use ventilators anymore. So you had, call it 29,000 cases in 2020, 909 deaths. In 2021, which is obviously when the vaccine rollout began, February 2021, but the total of the year, 334,269 cases. So a pretty significant increase in cases. Over 10 times the cases. Now the deaths are only 1,317. And remember, we were told at the time it's because the variants, like primarily was Delta in 2021, were more transmissible but less deadly. Like we were told that, right? Fast forward to 2022. Now, this is year to date. It's only, the 15th of July today. Cases, just for 2022.
So we've gone 300,000 in.
Yeah, so we went 29,000, 334,000, and as of, in the 7th month, 8,329,198 cases, as of today, for 8,352 deaths.
Right.
So, obviously, much, much higher case count, much, much higher death count. And the problem is that using that data, if you wanted to, you could claim that the claim around the vaccine efficacy of reducing severe illness and death is true.
Right.
Because you go, oh, well, we've had 8 million cases. That is, what, almost 30 times as many cases as we had last year. And we've only had 4 times as many deaths. Therefore, the vaccine is working. It's stopping people getting severely ill and dying. But I put this to you. We were also told that Omicron was far more transmissible and far less deadly. And remember, back in 2020, we were still talking a less than 1% case to death ratio. So if you've gone original alpha strain less than 1%, then you've gone delta strain less than 1%, then you've gone Omicron less than delta. Then you've had all these different variants of Omicron, which I don't even know why all of a sudden Omicron just started getting its own variants.
Yeah.
I don't understand that either. But in other words, the virus has done what a lot of people said that it would do, and what we mirrored on this podcast early on, which was it is evolving to infect more people and kill less, which is what viruses want to do.
Yep.
And it is not a guarantee that that is what would happen, but that's what the data was showing.
Yeah.
Right? As much as people in official positions wanted to basically tell you not to believe the data or not believe your eyes, they just wanted to tell you what to believe.
Sure.
But the reality is this: we've had 8 million cases, and it's the number is skyrocketing every single day. I mean, I had it. Like, I'm not going to lie. We had it 3 months ago and barely even noticed.
Yeah.
This time around, it knocked us around a fair bit. And I think it's because, like, Amanda, I know, got a secondary infection, so she had to get antibiotics for a secondary infection. But I don't know if it's because this is a new variant, like if this is...
I don't think that... Your case to me is I know what you guys are going through for the last 2-3 months in terms of the amount of just illness and downtime and stuck in the house, and you guys are going to get smashed by anything.
Probably. Yeah.
And I mean, case in point, there's no one else has been as hard hit. Second time round that in our cohort.
Yeah, true.
Than you guys.
And we knew that too. Like, as long as we kept sending Nate to daycare, he was going to keep bringing stuff home.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting too. Like, and even speaking to the daycare workers, like they a lot of them have been saying, we've never seen anything like this. And we know what the reason is. The reason is everyone's run out of sick leave in the last 2 years. They don't have any sick leave anymore. Because you remember, when people stay home from work because the kids are sick, you're on sick leave.
Yeah.
You only get 14 days a year.
Yeah.
Like, it's the law now. If you have COVID, you have to stay home for 7 days.
Yeah.
So anytime you test positive to it, that's half your sick leave for the whole year gone. So people have run out of sick leave, and now there's no payments anymore. So the federal government's removed those payments. People can't afford to keep their kids home anymore. And to top it off even worse, doctors are still pulling the bullshit of, we're not seeing you if you've got any respiratory issues. So when you're getting a fucking telehealth appointment going, hey, it's been 7 days, my kid needs to go back to daycare, I need you to sign him off. They're like, oh, how does he seem? What are the parents going to say? Yeah, he's fine. I need to go back to work. He's fine.
Yeah.
And then they're just writing off these clearance notes to send kids back who are clearly still sick.
It has been a real mess. I think that it's caused, like, the 7-day isolation period has really caused issues with supply chains.
Yep.
Yeah, it was funny. We were talking about at yes, please. We were talking at lunch today how one of his friends works for airlines, and the airline staff, because they fired everyone before COVID.
Yep.
They've employed all new people. These new people can't handle the abuse that they're getting, but at the same time they're still trying to gouge. They deserve it because they're not set up properly. Anyway, so it's causing all these trickle down effects, and the fact that you've got a doctors, hospitals all behind the 8 ball because of policy, not because of disease.
That's right.
Because of policy.
Yeah.
That's where I have an issue, and that's where, like, did you watch that Freddie Sayer interviewing on Unheard?
Yeah, I did.
The health minister from Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do any of this stuff.
That's right.
And they function as a society.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, we said we'll look at their numbers. Our numbers were better than theirs, so we thought we were doing better.
Mm-hmm.
but we're catching up at a rate of knots.
And
But their GDP remained the same.
Yeah.
They actually gained because the rest of the world fell apart.
Yep.
And it could be argued that we should have just put all the information out there, created the vaccines, made them available for the people that it was actually going to help,
Yep.
i.e. the old immunocompromised, and kicked on with business and said, this is what we recommend. We think that you should stay 1.5 metres apart, which
Yep.
social distancing is going to be the best
That's
thing,
right. Yeah, yeah.
Can we agree,
Yep.
agree on that? You know, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask.
Yep.
But if they would have just given us the information, were honest with the data that they gave us, we are smart enough as a nation to have made the right choice.
That's right.
The fact that we have put that in the hands of bureaucrats
Yep.
that, you know, have had ulterior motives, because, you know, it's interesting that all the state premiers probably won't be in the job by the end of
That's right.
their terms.
Yeah.
Could be argued.
And that's something that's reflected around the world. That's not just an Australian phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the UK. You've just had Boris Johnson resign. He was one of the big COVID crew, and in the same week before he pulled the pin, his what's his name, Jarvid, I can't remember, but the health minister that was part of that famous viral video of when he was interviewing. There was that. I think it was an anaesthetist inside a hospital, and the health minister was going around telling all the hospital workers that they needed to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, I've literally been working on the front lines during COVID for the last 18 months. I have had COVID. I've recovered from COVID. My natural immunity will be stronger than anything that some new vaccine can give me. And you are now saying that after 30 years service that I'll lose my job if I don't take this experimental vaccine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that guy, he resigned in the week beforehand too. So, I mean,
So they won't ever face music.
no, and that's, again, that is, to me, it's the most frustrating thing about all this. Like, you look at Australia, who was the Australian health minister? Because he resigned too, the federal one. Can't even remember his name now.
Greg Hunt?
Greg Hunt, that's right. So Greg Hunt, who was running things during COVID, he's resigned. Martin
fair,
Foley.
If you think back, he was probably the most liberal in his approach. He was almost the last person to really push mandates. He was probably the softest in terms of policy compared to all. Now, could have been all a ploy.
Yep.
We spoke about the whole time. Feds and
Yep.
states
Could have been an element of controlled opposition to make it look like, yeah. But at the end of the day, like look at Australia's COVID situation. So you had ScoMo, he lost his job because the people booted him out.
destroyed too.
Yeah, and I've said it before. I've never seen anyone happier to lose a prime ministership in my life.
Yeah.
And you could easily say it's been a stressful 3 years for him, so fair enough.
Yeah,
But
needs a trip to Bali.
yeah, needs a holiday, that bloke. So anyway,
You know that they've put a plaque on his seat in Bali.
Oh, really?
He was having the beers with the boys while the country was burning down.
Yeah, mad. And, Albo, who criticised him for that, has been overseas handing out money to Ukraine while Sydney's underwater.
So, okay, I'm going to push back against that because I've
Okay.
heard that before.
Yep.
He's working. He's done deals.
Yeah, he sent $100 million to Ukraine while his people suffered.
No,
Cool.
He's done free trade agreements with Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
He's got ministers in the Cook Islands.
Yep.
He's working.
I get it.
ScoMo was not working.
Oh, yeah. And look,
That was
I
holidays.
can accept that he's over there trying to do work. What I am frustrated with is year to date for, calendar year 2022, since the Ukraine war started, Australia has sent $330 million to Ukraine
Yeah, that's crazy.
during an unprecedented inflation crisis at home, cost of living crisis, energy crisis.
It
Like
helps
we,
our inflation. Sending $300 million to Ukraine helps inflation.
yeah, helps it go up.
Nope. No. You've removed money supply from our...
No, but you borrowed that money in the first place, mate. We didn't have that money to send. Like 330 million. We had the head of the...
Probably got in the upping of the speeding tickets. They've just skimmed $300 million out of there.
Well, yeah, who knows if that's in response to trying to pay down some of the budget measures, but we've literally gone and we got 1 trillion in debt. So the 1 trillion in debt was the justification to remove these COVID stay-at-home payments. And yeah, we sent $330 million to a country that we're not even technically an ally with. They're not a part of NATO. Like, there should be no reason why. Yeah, and also...
Where's the money for... some West African countries like, where's their money?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a thing that I've spoken about a million times, but I want receipts for all the money spent on. I want receipts. Like, if I...
It's not disconnected.
Hopefully.
I'm not registering on there. Or is yours not registering on
No.
there? No. This one's not... That one's not moving.
Oh, this is interesting. Oh, there you go.
No, it's moving now.
Yeah, it's moving now. We may have just lost a lot of this podcast, but
Yeah,
anyway,
sorry about that.
Let's just keep going.
It was a rant. Am I at the top or the bottom? On the bottom. So
Yeah.
maybe me. That's fine. You were talking.
Yeah, I was talking the most anyway. But yeah, so I cop that Albo may be flying around actually doing some deals. I do cop that. However, unfortunately, when you're in glass houses, you shouldn't throw stones. And one of the things that he threw stones at ScoMo about was abandoning his people during these times of crisis. And we have had crises in Australia, like floods, that he wasn't here for, didn't come back for, and that was the criticism that he'd levelled at his predecessor.
Look, I wasn't a massive anti-ScoMo having a holiday. I think everyone deserves their holiday. You know, I understand that it's bad optics. But I do think, though, it's two very different things.
Oh, yeah, but there's still plenty more time for Albo to keep fucking up, too. We had plenty of ammunition on ScoMo's record.
Yeah. But and also, don't forget, too, the fact that we have seen ScoMo's bad side under a Murdoch press is surprising. Imagine the stuff that we missed.
Oh, of course, yeah. Like, and that's the thing. I'm not a ScoMo apologist. ScoMo is a piece of shit.
You do sound critical of Labor, though. You sound very critical.
I'm critical of all of them.
Yeah, but you're not balancing out the fact that it's an unfair battle given the information that we're given.
But I'm not. What do you mean? I think I'm being very balanced. I'm criticising him for giving $330 million to a different country when his own people are struggling.
That part I agree. But him saying that, likening him to ScoMo, for ScoMo's on holiday, so it's two separate things. While Albo, which you should, when you get in, when you're an incumbent, when you are, does incumbent mean?
Incumbent means ScoMo was the incumbent.
Okay, so now when you're in your government, you do need to go make those treaties. You do need to go travel around to do the meet and greet. That is a part of it. So the fact that we're criticising him just because you have an event, I don't cop that. I don't think that's fair.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can criticise him for the Ukraine thing.
100%.
I can criticise him for voting yes for the changes to the international health regulations,
100%.
which would have handed our sovereignty over to the World Health
I don't
Organization in the
understand-
event of a pandemic.
I don't understand why anyone would want to relinquish power to a foreign entity. It makes no sense.
Well, and this is getting us back to the point. When you said before about ulterior motives, the only thing that explains the consistent direction of the decisions that were made during the pandemic and continue to be made now is ulterior motives. It's the only thing that makes sense. You cannot have every single decision go in the same direction and claim it's just incompetence. It's clearly not.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
That's why, unfortunately, all the rats are abandoning ship.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's why we need to keep an eye on them.
yeah, ScoMo, Greg Hunt, both gone. Look, close to
Gladys.
home in Queensland. Well, yeah, Gladys and John Barilaro gone, and John Barilaro lost his new plum chair too.
Yeah.
His
Oh, come on,
$500,000
guys.
job he created for himself. But
already had my post redirected to Manhattan.
But think about it, that dodgy shit has happened in Queensland. The Palaszczuk regime has done the exact same thing for themselves. So, the health minister in Queensland during the pandemic, Jeanette Young, what's she now? She's the governor of Queensland. So she's been given the plum position, which also just happens to be the position that if you have a vote of no confidence in the government, you have to go through the governor to take it. Right? So in other words, she's put her buddy in the position to protect her.
But I will put this out there. If you're in her position, you do exactly the same thing. I would be your governor. You would. It's human nature. It's the same conversation I had with Chris about jobs. Applying through Seek is a dumb idea when the best way to do it is make a friend put a face to your name and you have a three-dimensional approach to three-dimensional picture of what that person's about.
Yep.
Which is exactly why you put someone you know in a position of power.
Just because I would do the exact same thing doesn't make it right.
But no, but you can. The reason why I outline that is because we act like we say we are critical of these things, but I do genuinely argue that if we're in the same position, we'd probably do the same thing.
But I
It
don't
looks
know.
bad from the bottom up, but at that level, I can justify it. Now, I am agreeing with you as well. I do think it's the only counter for the Yvette Young one is that now she could probably still be held accountable if something happens, whereas the Barilaras and the Berejiklians that have left, they maybe have washed their hands of it because
Yeah,
they're no
maybe.
longer in that power. I would say that's worse.
But
Jumping, I am more critical of someone who's jumped out of a senior political position that goes and jumps into a company. And remember, we're watching
corporate thing that they are supposed to regulate.
correct, and that's and the Annabelle Eyes. Let's keep an eye on where Gladys. Gladys is currently at Optus.
Yep.
Let's see where she ends up after the Optus gig.
So, to give you a few more examples, Anastasia Palaszczuk made herself the head of the 2032 Olympic Committee. The other members of that Olympic Committee that she made are Stephen Miles, her deputy premier, and Yvette Darth, the stupid bitch with the fucking lisp who can't speak, who's our health minister. So, in other words, these rats who know that they did the wrong thing by their people they've guaranteed themselves lucrative government jobs until 2032.
Which you do too.
I don't know. At the end of the day,
You do
I
it.
think it's when it's the public service, you have to be in the interest of serving the public. You can, if you want to make all the dodgy, corrupt decisions, go into business. That's cool. But because that's what business is for. Business is supposed to be about profits.
Business is more regulated than what governments are.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that is not right.
That's not right.
That is not what it
Yeah,
should
I agree
be.
with that.
So that's the COVID situation in Queensland. And remember too, don't forget. Remember how there was the guy before Dr. John Gerard that was supposed to take over from Jeanette Young
And bailed out the week
bailed
before.
out the week before because he's like, I ain't saying that shit.
Because that not in the weeks leading up to mandates?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
It's
It was before they brought in the mandates for the school holidays and stuff.
Yeah. I'm not saying that.
Exactly.
Which is what we're assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty sweetheart job.
Absolutely. And, he'd already accepted the job and then bailed out a week beforehand. So that's Queensland. Look at Victoria. Victoria, the health minister, Martin Foley, he resigned. Like, he was one pushing mandates. Like, how many senior ministers have resigned from Dan Andrews' cabinet in the last...
Was it 11?
Oh, it's more than that. That might have been 11 in one go, but it's way more than that.
Can we just, because we're running long, can we talk real quickly about... Did you, in the last episode that you watched with Chris, did you get enough information about the Twitter deal going south?
Yeah, I felt like I did.
Did you hear Adam Curry's take on Elon Musk on the previous
Well, he's
No
been
Agenda?
saying it since the beginning.
He
that he's
literally
just trying to
predicted this.
destroy it.
He predicted all of this,
Yeah.
and it's gone exactly the way as Adam predicted. But did you also hear Adam's other gripe?
Which
He's
was?
not a Musk fan about cloning.
Yeah.
So he said that all Elon's money has come from government contracts.
Yeah.
So Tesla green credits is one.
Yep.
SpaceX is purely made up of NASA
Yep.
satellite contracts. Adam is adamant, that's probably why his name's Adam, adamant that Elon is working for one, if not multiple, governments,
Yeah.
and that he's experimenting with human cloning. He's got 10 kids, 3 sets of twins, and 2 of the previous sets of twins were within like months of each other.
Right.
So he thinks he's experimenting with cloning.
Yeah. Now he is the crackpot, Adam Curry.
Yes, has been right more than he's been wrong.
Oh yeah.
Has literally
Yeah.
nailed this thing 100%.
Look, here's the thing. I agree with his sentiments on Elon to an
He
extent.
has met him too, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
They have met. Yep.
Yeah. But I agree with him to an extent because, like you said, the majority of Elon's wealth has come from government grants. At least that's where he's gotten his starts on a lot of things. He's also explained no one gets as big as Elon has in multiple different industries without being in with the right people
Sure.
and being assisted by government. Because government could regulate away any of his business in the drop of a hat.
Yep.
And the fact that they haven't I mean, like, the guy's literally has the boring company where he can bore tunnels underneath cities. Like, that's the sort of thing that in a heartbeat, if you're trying to, like, take that dude out because you think he's getting too powerful, you could just switch it off. But he's been basically allowed to operate fairly freely. So from the perspective of him potentially working for government and being this controlled opposition figurehead, because obviously a lot of the red pillars love Elon Musk. Everyone was very excited about him potentially buying Twitter for a lot of freedom reasons. I know Adam Curry's take on it was that it's a bad thing because he's just out there as controlled opposition. So he
didn't say it was a bad thing. He just said it was. He was not there to buy. Yeah. He is purely there to destroy it.
Yeah. As far as the cloning thing goes, Elon has mentioned before his concerns about declining populations, particularly in the West.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of talk at the moment about, you know, like there's been too many people on the world. Like
and they're wrong. But
the World Economic Forum people are all about, you know, there's too many people. We need to, if we do a really good job on vaccines, we could knock that number down by 10 or 15%.
Yeah.
Hashtag Bill Gates. I'm with you. I completely disagree that there is an overpopulation problem. I think if you look at, especially our country, we need way more people.
Yeah.
The inflationary issues and like lack of growth and all that sort of stuff, they get solved by having more people.
For sure.
More producers, more consumers. Like that solves that stuff. A lot of the reasons why people think we have too many people are because of climate rhetoric. You know, a lot of the climate change stuff that's been pushed for many years, which is all about getting us scared of an unseen enemy, like an invisible enemy that's going to, you know, tear the house down in 5 minutes' time.
Flood the house.
If you don't send us money. Like, that's essentially what it is, right? It's amazing how many of these issues in life can be solved by sending money to a political party. You know, like look at what happened with the Democrats with the whole Roe v. Wade thing. Like they had the chance to codify it, and instead of doing that,
they asked for $15.
Give us $15,
and we'll maybe not do it, or we'll do even less about it.
Yeah. So I don't know if Elon Musk is experimenting with cloning. I think
he's got 10 kids. Different women.
I get that.
All hot women.
All hot women.
Look, Grimes, maybe not so much. Very talented.
She's hot enough. Hot crazy scale. She's up there.
Yeah.
But I just think he doesn't have a lot of time, and he doesn't want to pull out. Why would you pull out? Feels better to not. Why would you wear condoms? Like if you can afford it, why not? Have as many kids as you want, especially if you don't have to take care of them. Especially if
that's a really good point.
Someone else is taking care of them. I love my kids.
That logic is like undeniable.
Dude, like I love my kids, right? I absolutely adore them. Anyone who follows me on social media knows how much I love my children. But in the last 2 fucking weeks, the amount of times I want to throw them out the fucking window,
Elon's like, yes, I'm going to space,
Yeah, Elon's literally like, I work 20 hours a day and I sleep 3.5. So I've got half an hour a day to share between my 10 children to all my different wives. And do you know what Elon does? Elon Grimes messages him going, hey, when you come to spend time with the kids? And Elon's like, oh, I'm at the other mum's house. And he's not.
Yeah.
He's just working still.
He's literally figuring out how to move to a different planet.
He's probably busy blowing in someone else.
Okay, so right.
The guy doesn't have a lot of time.
Again, we're running short. We need to talk quickly about Sri Lanka.
Oh, yeah.
So
not just Sri Lanka too.
It's not. They haven't really spoken about it on the news except for the fact that there's protests there.
Yeah.
The government's gone. The government has collapsed in Sri Lanka, and it's due to farming regulations. They've tried to, and it happened in the Netherlands.
Yes.
And the Netherlands, obviously, government hasn't fallen over. They're far more sophisticated than what Sri Lanka is, but the thing is the same. They're trying to pull nitrogen out of the air.
Yeah, which. Well, out of the
farming, out of the agriculture.
Yeah,
so the farm in Netherlands,
fertilizer they use is nitrogen rich.
Yeah,
and
for a reason,
seemingly out of nowhere, they have decided that that nitrogen's the problem now when it comes to farming.
Yeah,
and that all these farms that have a nitrogen level of X in their soil need to be shut down for the good of the world.
Yeah,
and it just so happens that, especially in like the Netherlands, all these farms that have the nitrogen level at X are all the small farms.
Yeah.
And all the big farms don't have the same sort of problem.
Yeah.
So it is this arbitrary green policy.
Hidden, a fear on a hidden element fear in the air.
Yeah.
There's literally fear in the air.
It's the exact same elements as the COVID scam. Like, we use an invisible enemy. Like, you can't see the nitrogen in the soil.
A pathogen.
Yeah, like, it's an invisible thing which apparently is going to kill us unless we take action. And unfortunately, like, the Netherlands is really going through it. Like, they're literally talking about shutting down 30% of the farms. Like, think about the other headlines that you see on the news at the moment. We are in a, like, global food crisis is coming. They keep talking about it. Oh, there's, like, look at the cost of everything down at the shops at the moment. It's not just because of fuel. It's because we've got some food shortages, because of a lot of supply chain issues. Well, what are we doing around the world at the same time? Shutting down farms. Like,
Same thing around cars. Just a quick side note. Something is happening in Australia. Australia's been very anti-cars. So we've got chip shortages, which has reduced the amount of new cars that have hit the market. The government has just tightened the rules around imports, making it harder to get imported vehicles here, used vehicles, so to even further decrease supply. And they're also now putting another clamp down on the way that you scrap vehicles to make it harder to sell parts off those vehicles.
yeah, interesting. And it's which is essentially recycling. Like, it's what anyone who's a green lover should want you to recycle parts as much as you possibly can.
And I would say cars is one of the most recycled commodity on the planet, because literally, like a scrap yard, you drive past them, like, they're our dream. The amount of dealings that we do with it, you just grab a part that's failed on your car, pick it up out of that one, put it in yours, and you're good.
So again, that's one of those things where, like we said before, this is a bureaucratic decision that has been made, which goes in a certain direction, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Is it incompetence or is it corruption? Like, is there an ulterior motive behind that? It's one of the things that happened in Sri Lanka before the government failed was they tried to restrict fuel sales. The normal people weren't allowed to buy fuel for their cars. Like, it was restricted to only, like, military and government or something like that.
Right.
It was one of the things that literally happened in the days leading up to them literally storming the fucking... Is it the president or the prime minister? President?
Prime Minister, I think.
Prime Minister's house.
And do you know what's wild? If I was the guy, the optics look really bad because he's fled for the Maldives.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're fleeing, like if you're a government official that's trying to exile yourself, purely for optics, go to a country on par or worse than the country that you're leaving.
That's right.
Right. It looks so bad when you
That's
go,
right.
hey, I need to get out of here. Maldives looks good. The weather in Maldives is great.
Again, this is why I get so upset about us sending $330 million to Ukraine, because the exact same thing is happening there as what has happened in Sri Lanka, as what happened in Afghanistan. When the Afghani government crumbled within 5 minutes of the West deciding to leave that country, the president of the country fled, taking hundreds of millions of dollars of American dollars with him.
Yeah.
The exact same thing has happened in Sri Lanka, and the exact same thing is happening with Volodymyr Zelensky.
Mugabe was the Zimbabwe president. $50 million worth of foreign aid in, $60 million worth of Mugabe investment out every year.
Yeah.
Just on that really quickly about the Wonton Don. It's a Barstool product. Wonton Don, he travels around the world.
Right.
I love his videos. He's currently visiting Iraq.
Okay.
And when your thoughts of Iraq, the war-torn part, now you definitely see that. They loved him.
Yeah, right.
People yelling at him on the streets when he was trying to cross the road, and he was like, oh, I don't know if they just don't like Americans.
Yeah.
They're saying, how are you? How are you? They're testing their English.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and people are walking past going like, you're welcome here. Like, we want people back. So it's nice to see when left to your own devices. Now, they had a massive coup only 2019. They kicked the government out that was put in by
the Americans.
The Americans.
Yeah.
They got their own, and they're flying.
Yeah.
The people will sort out their stuff. Now, Sri Lanka, I hope that Sri Lanka sorts their stuff out, get rid of this obviously corrupt government, and go back to being Sri Lankans, and then be, and they'll sort it out. I have
Do you know what's going to be very interesting to follow on this is how it is portrayed in the media over here, if it gets portrayed at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I want to say it now, because we've got to look at it.
Yeah, it's right, because like you're saying about like Iraq, like when the media stopped talking about Iraq because it was no longer convenient for them, everyone's view of Iraq was that it's just a terrorist hotspot, and they've grown, like, you've got a generation of children that's grown up under attack from the West, and they hate the West, and it's the place has been torn apart and like it's a dead state is essentially what everyone's perception was. And like you're saying, now anyone who actually goes there, and look, I'm only commenting, like I don't know, I haven't been there, but I would say that our idea of it is different to the reality.
Absolutely.
And the way that, like, I haven't seen much on what's happening in Sri Lanka, which you fucking should.
Yeah.
But again, does any government want to broadcast to their people who they have just oppressed for 2 years, this other country's just had their government overthrown because they literally just walked into the guy's house and said, you're out? You don't want that, because you don't want to tell, like, there's, I watch a lot of kids' movies these days. There's a kids' movie, A Bug's Life, that was out when we were kids. Do you remember that? About the ants?
Yep.
And the ants have this, because we watched it with Nate a few weeks ago, the ants, every single year, they have this pressure to harvest enough food for, I think it's the crickets, because the crickets come and they have to have this, like, offering, otherwise the crickets are going to kill all the ants.
Yep.
And at one point, I can't remember the exact line, people would have seen memes of it, but there's this one point where the crickets are like the general of the crickets is addressing the people, and they're basically saying that if the ants knew that they could fight back, like they massively outnumber us, they just cannot know that that's even an option.
That's a message.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I'm the Australian government and I've controlled the media for the last 2 straight years to throw out whatever narrative that I need them to throw out, I'm probably telling them to not talk about how another country's just had their government overthrown by literally people just walking in the front door saying, hey, you're not doing a good enough job. We've had enough. We'll take over.
We think you need a little trip to the Maldives.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Really
we haven't gone long, we will leave it there.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. And we'll see you on next week's episode of The VK Bros.
Bye.
Cheers.